Imagine working your entire life. Early mornings, late nights, countless hours in the pool or on the track, pushing yourself to be the best. You sacrifice time with friends, miss family events, and pour everything into your sport. Now imagine that after all that hard work, you are being told that your entire program has been cut. Not because of your talent or the talent of your teammates, no, but because the university has shifted its funding and priorities. This became the reality for thousands of Division I athletes after the House versus NCAA settlement back in 2025. My name is Zander Wallpe, and today I want to share with you how the world of college athletics has been transformed by the name, image, and likeness revolution, and what that means for athletes who don't compete in revenue-generating sports. My senior capstone examines how NIL has influenced financial priorities in college athletics, focusing specifically on non-revenue-generating sports like track, swimming, gymnastics, wrestling, and volleyball. And while NIL has created new opportunities for some, especially high-profile athletes, it has also changed how a majority of programs are funded, how rosters are determined, and which athletes get prioritized. I'll explore both the opportunities and challenges this system has created, particularly for athletes who don't have the same visibility as football and basketball stars. I have always had a love for sports. From a young age, I was enraptured by the thrill of athletic competition. And not only did my family watch a ton of sports, mainly the big three of football, basketball, and baseball. Go Warriors. But we also played sports together. This naturally led me to participate in almost every sport offered, both at the recreation and school level. Much to my parents' aggravation, I also developed a love for sports video games. Madden, 2K, MLB The Show, and FIFA. And through the countless hours I spent, I gained a deeper insight into a world that I was already so passionate about. I began to wonder whether I could turn this into a career. So, I attended a sports business summer camp at UCLA, and the following year, a college class at the local community college, and I realized that this was something that I wanted to pursue. At the beginning of last year, I learned that one of my close family friends, Drake, who is currently attending the University of Colorado Boulder and was on a full athletic scholarship, was cut. His entire program was eliminated. His story and subsequent struggle inspired this project. NIL was introduced back in 2021 following the NCAA versus Alston decision allowing college athletes to make money by using their personal brand through things like endorsement deals, social media promotions, camps, and business partnerships while still maintaining their eligibility. Before this, college athletes on scholarship weren't able to earn any income from promoting their personal brand without forfeiting their ability to play. There was a lot of money being made in college sports. It just wasn't going to the people actually generating that revenue. The incorporation of NIL marked a major shift in college sports by incorporating financial opportunities that had never existed before. However, the changes didn't stop there. They accelerated with House versus NCAA settlement in 2025, which pushed schools towards revenue-sharing models that forced athletic departments to rethink how they distributed their resources. This shift has put increased pressure on non-revenue-generating programs, which are now facing cuts, reduced funding, or limited staffing opportunities. And for many mid-major programs, the financial strain is simply too much to support every program, so they're cutting less visible sports in order to stay competitive in others. This led me to my essential questions for this topic. How has NIL influenced the structure and priorities of college athletics? How are non-revenue generating athletes affected by these changes in funding? And what can athletes do to remain competitive in this evolving system. For decades, big programs have had advantages, but NIL has taken this to another level. Now, boosters can openly offer financial compensation to athletes, which makes the top-end programs even more powerful. Since NIL's introduction, schools have begun to focus more of their attention on football and basketball because those are the sports that bring in the most revenue. A major issue is visibility. The biggest NIL deals, often worth hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars, are going to the athletes with the largest platforms. Meanwhile, the average NIL deal is much smaller, and many non-revenue generating athletes receive little to no NIL compensation. Since NIL and revenue pressures have increased, dozens of programs have been cut across the country. Over 40 Division I non-revenue generating programs have been eliminated. Schools are cutting sports like swimming, track, volleyball, and wrestling, and some universities have even reduced their entire athletic staff. Simultaneous shifts in the way athletes can transfer has exacerbated this issue. The transfer portal, introduced by the NCAA back in 2018, is a system that allows athletes to officially declare their intent to transfer and communicate with other schools. It was created to give athletes more control over their careers and make the process more transparent. Originally, athletes had to sit out a year after transferring, but in 2021, the NCAA changed the rules to allow most athletes to transfer once and play immediately. This made movement between schools much more common and easier. Because of this, athletes now have more freedom to pursue better opportunities, whether that's more playing time, booster compensation, or higher NIL earnings. This has created instability. Teams are now struggling to keep their players. Coaches have to re-recruit their athletes each season, and decisions are increasingly based off of money, not development or loyalty. So while NIL and the transfer portal have created real opportunities for some, they have also made college sports more unequal and unpredictable. So I've talked a little bit about revenue sharing, but what are those numbers actually looking like? Schools are now able to share up to 22% of athletic revenue with their athletes, with a cap of $20.5 million per school as of 2025-2026. This cap will increase by 4% annually over the next 10 years. Before revenue sharing, schools used that money to fund entire athletic departments, covering scholarships, travel, coaching staffs, and facilities for non-revenue generating sports like track, swimming, and wrestling. But now, with up to $20.5 million being redistributed back to the athletes and a gross majority of that money going towards football and basketball, this has created a major problem. Instead of expanding opportunities, schools are now redistributing existing money, which makes less funding available for other sports. As a result, non-revenue generating programs are being cut, rosters are shrinking, and fewer athletes are able to compete at the Division I level. As of spring of 2025, multiple schools have begun cutting or restructuring programs due to financial pressures because of revenue sharing. Some notable schools include Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, who has eliminated men's and women's swimming and diving. Grand Canyon University dropped men's volleyball. The University of Utah cut women's beach volleyball. Seattle University cut men's tennis and indoor track. Cleveland State University eliminated wrestling, women's golf, and softball. University of Texas at El Paso cut women's tennis. And Washington State and the University of Colorado Boulder have both reduced their track and field programs by eliminating field events. In addition to program cuts, schools are making broader financial adjustments. Powerhouse universities like Texas A&M have implemented department-wide budget cuts. UCLA, USC, and the University of Michigan have both reduced staff. The University of Minnesota has introduced new student fees to offset these rising costs. This shows that the impact isn't just isolated, it's happening across multiple programs and levels of college athletics. To better understand this issue, I interviewed students at 2 universities, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and the University of Colorado Boulder. I conducted my Cal Poly interviews over the phone, but was fortunate enough to be able to travel to Boulder, Colorado to interview Division I track athletes in track and field. I spoke with athletes who were still competing, as well as some who had been cut. And these interviews gave me a first-hand look into how NIL is affecting real athletes and their futures. Over the course of this project, I interviewed a total of 10 experts, including 8 Division I athletes, 1 NIL professional, and 1 Division I athlete parent. I inquired about their experiences after the House versus NCAA changes, especially when it came to revenue sharing and NIL. I focused on asking open-ended questions about NIL's opportunities given to these non-revenue generating athletes. I also asked about roster cuts and the overall athlete experience and their future goals with the sport. I then analyzed these interviews by identifying some key themes. From these conversations, a few patterns stood out. Athletes expressed a lot of frustration, confusion, and uncertainty around the decisions and lack of communication from athletic departments. There was a very clear gap between football and non-revenue generating sports, especially when it came to the availability of support and personal branding work. Tanya, a parent I interviewed, emphasized the emotional impact these decisions had had on her family. How after years of financial and emotional support she had given to her son to pursue his athletic dreams, his entire program was eliminated. One interview that really stood out to me was my interview with Julian Hayward, CEO and founder of Hayward Forward, a company dedicated to helping athletes expand their brand. During my interview with Julian, he explained how difficult it is for non-revenue generating athletes to gain visibility, get guidance, and support. This kickstarted my idea for my final product. My final product will be a podcast designed to help non-revenue generating athletes navigate this new NIL landscape. It will focus on building personal brand, increasing exposure, and using NIL opportunities to become more valuable to their programs. It will also prepare athletes for challenges like being cut or entering the transfer portal, giving them the tools to stay competitive and relevant. In addition to my podcast, another part of my product is that I'm actually currently interning with Julian Hayward and his company. And through this internship, I'm gaining real-world experience and learning how NIL is working in practice, which will help me make my podcast more informed, relevant, and impactful. I would like us to quickly revisit my essential questions, and I would love to give you guys a couple of my answers. My first essential question: how has NIL influenced the structure and priorities of college athletics? Well, NIL has shifted college athletics towards a business model where revenue-generating sports are prioritized over non-revenue-generating sports. My second question: how are non-revenue-generating athletes affected by the changes in funding? Non-revenue-generating athletes are facing more cuts, fewer opportunities, and limited access to the NIL money. And lastly, what can athletes do to remain competitive and relevant in this evolving system? Athletes must build their personal brand, increase visibility in order to stay valuable in this NIL era. At the end of my research, one thing is truly clear. NIL has completely reshaped college sports in just a few years. And while it has created real opportunities for some athletes, especially those in football and basketball, it has also created a major imbalance across sports. Most of the money and attention is going towards a small group of high-profile athletes, while non-revenue generating athletes are often left with little to no support. College sports are shifting away from a business model that's purely about development and more toward having a focus on financial money, one of the most important solutions moving forward is education and awareness, so athletes can better understand the system and put themselves in a position to succeed. Ultimately, however, we need to look at a systemic solution that addresses this problem rather than simply teaching athletes to better manage the broken system. But for now, education for our athletes is the best course of action until we can implement some changes at the federal level. Before I end this presentation, there's a few gratitudes I would like to give out. First, I would like to thank Hannah. It's been really amazing to get to work with you this year, and I've had so much fun being able to experience this project. And I'm sure all the seniors can feel the same, being able to be pushed to newer heights and to better expand our understanding of these topics. Andy, I would love to give a shout out to you. You really pushed me individually to extend myself and to make this as good as it can be. I would like to thank Steven. He actually set me up with an expert that helped me with a lot of this information and gave me a very unique perspective. So I'd really like to thank you. And then lastly, Mom, you do so much for everyone in this room, and I just can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me, all the support you've given me over the years. And I'd love everyone to give her a round of applause. Everyone a round of applause. There we go. All right. Thank you so much. And I'd love to answer any questions you may have.